and we would play between classes. Sometimes we'd even play in the classes themselves if we could get away with it. And sometimes we'd play after school, and we would even host tournaments. We had a lot of fun with this game. Sometimes we would just pass the Game Boy around. Other times we'd bring our link cables and link them up. And we just really enjoyed this game. This game was very popular for a brief period at my school. However, whoever get their hands on these two COs, Sturm and Hachi, they were automatically treated as the cool kids. This was a big status symbol because getting these two COs was not easy. I remember working at it during an entire summer vacation. I would play this game every single day trying to get my hands on Sturm and Hachi. How you had to unlock Sturm is you had to beat the campaign with an overall S rank requirement. This is considered very easy to do today, but back then it was considered a real feat. It's very hard to do. But in order to get Hachi, you'd have to go even further. You actually had to beat the hard campaign. And me and my friends, we considered the hard campaign pretty much impossible. Most of us weren't able to beat the normal campaign, but beating the hard campaign was considered even more insane. And I remember when we actually started getting our hands on Sturm and Hachi, that allowed us to play Sturm versus Hachi. And we considered this like the most fun matchup we could play because on their own, playing Sturm or Hachi, it's like playing with cheat codes. You know, Sturm's units are insanely strong. Hachi is just a snowball CEO. He just snowballs completely out of control. But against each other, it felt kind of balanced. They were equally broken, so to say. And thus, me and my friends, we would have a lot of discussions about which one of them would be better. Half of us were like, yeah, Sturm is obviously the better one. Half of us were like, no, Hachi is much better than Sturm. And we would have lots of arguments, and we played lots of matches against each other to try and figure out which one of them were the more broken one. However, we're talking 16-year-old Mangs and his friends here, not exactly top-tier Advanced Wars players. What would happen if we took two of the best players in the world and had them play a match like this against each other? Which one would come out on top? However, there is a small problem. You see, while Hachi is unchanged on Advanced Wars by Web, he is pretty much as broken as he has always been, Sturm has been changed. They decided to do something weird with him, and I'm not entirely sure why. They changed him more similar to how he was in Advanced Wars 1. On Advanced Wars by Web, Sturm has the plus 20% defense, but he doesn't have plus 20% firepower like he used to have on the cartridge. Instead, he has minus 20% firepower. So he's 40% weaker in terms of firepower. And this is how Sturm used to be in Advanced Wars 1 when you unlocked him. I guess they didn't want to give you the campaign mode Sturm because they considered him too broken, so they gave you kind of like a mellowed down Sturm. He has high defense but low firepower, and his meteor would only deal 4 HP of damage as opposed to the 8 that it dealt in the campaign. And I guess this is kind of the rationale for creating Advanced Wars by Web Sturm. He's kind of like a weird hybrid. He still has his super meteor, but he also has a normal power now that deals 4 HP of damage. As a result, you can't really do this classic matchup anymore because, well, Hachi is clearly way stronger than this version of Sturm. But, if you're a little bit creative, there is a way you can actually recreate this matchup. At least, almost. Not completely, but you can do it in a small way. What we did was we took a map that is, we decided on a map, which map we wanted to play on, and then we simply created a modified version of the map, where the Sturm player begins with 4 clock towers that cannot be captured back. As you can see, they're located in the corners, where they're far out of the way, and there's no shoals here, so even if you wanted to, you could not transport an infantry over here and take these clock towers. As a result, you now have a Sturm player with a day-to-day bonus of plus 20% firepower. Of course, on Advanced Wars by Web, he has minus 20%, so you need 4 clock towers to make up the difference. And then we get a matchup that is almost similar to what it would be on the cartridge. I say almost because it's not completely accurate. This Sturm is actually a little bit weaker. In Advanced Wars 2, Sturm would actually get a 20% firepower and defense boost whenever he popped Meteor Strike, bringing it up to 40% in total. Here on Advanced Wars by Web, he only gets the standard plus 10% boosts that all the other COs get, so his Meteor Strike is a little bit weaker. We also have a bit of a gentleman's agreement that the Sturm player will not activate their normal power. He's only allowed to use the superpower to try and get as close to the Advanced Wars 2 matchup as possible. Furthermore, we are playing an Advanced Wars by Web, which means that there will be dual strike units available, like the Mega Tank. We considered banning them, but we thought that it would just make Hachi way too weak if we did that. So we allowed the dual strike units. This is like an Advanced Wars by Web map, so there's also com towers on it normally, so it's not completely similar to what the matchup would be in Advanced Wars 2, but it's as close as we can get, in our opinion. Now, let's introduce the players, shall we? One of the players obviously don't need much introduction at all. It's Aegis. You've seen him before. We've done many videos together. He's ridiculously good. And he is going up against Operation Mechstorm. You may remember this guy from my tournament, the Grandmasters tournament. He played in it. He didn't do super well in a live format, but in normal standard play, he is insanely strong. This is a guy that is known for his meticulous planning. He uses the move planner to great effect. He also has a lot of mechs, hence the name. And he's very, very fun to watch. He plays really, really well. To give you guys an idea of just how strong these players are, here you can see the all-time scoreboard. You can see Aegis is ranked the 16th most powerful player in the world, and Operation Mechstorm is number 9. So this is pretty much as top tier as it gets. So the question is, ladies and gentlemen, which one of these CEOs are stronger than the other? Is it Hachi or is it Sturm? Of course, Hachi, he's a snowball CEO. That's his entire gimmick. His day-to-day isn't that strong. He gets a 10% discount. It's good, but it's not broken. Sturm a power barter? Yeah, it's pretty good. Sets his deployment cost to minus 50% for one turn. This can allow him to build some very powerful units early on. But it's the Merchant Union that truly makes him into a monster. This not only gives him minus 50% deployment cost, but it turns every single city on the map into a base. This means that he can snowball his unit count like no other CEOs. It's like Sensei, except that he also gets other good units in addition to his infantry spam. However, Sturm is pretty broken himself. 20% firepower, 20% defense, perfect movement over all terrain, and a very, very powerful meteor strike that pretty much invalidates a blob on the map. Now, if you play this match on the cartridge, the meteor would actually be a little random. Under Monsters by Web, it always hits the greatest accumulation of values, and so it's a little bit easier for Mechstorm to dance around this meteor, but it's still pretty devastating. The map that we are playing on is called Malekith Trail. It is a map on the standard league pool. It is a mixed base map. We struggled trying to pick a map that wouldn't favor any of these CEOs in one way or another. Hachi obviously wants big maps where he can put some distance between himself and his opponent so he can really get snowball himself. Whereas Sturm, he wants either heavily terrained maps or very small maps where he can just roll over his opponent. And we decided to pick this one for multiple reasons. It's a mixed base map, which means that Sturm has a slight edge because day-to-day powers are considered very strong there. But we considered this map was like big enough to allow Hachi to actually shine, but also has some terrain on it that allows Sturm to utilize his recons and other units, you know. So, but obviously this is a map-dependent matchup. You know, the bigger the map, the better it is for Hachi. The smaller the map, better it is for Sturm. So we landed on this one, and as you can see, we have modified it so that Sturm begins with 4 common towers, putting his day-to-day firepower up to a plus 20%. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's get started with this match. With some lovely, relaxing Hachis. So, this map is very fun to play on. It's one of my favorite ones in the standard pool. It looks like a high funds map. It really does. You almost get the impression that this is high funds, but it's not. But the income can go very high on this map. Now, being an Monsters by Web, we are following global league rules. This means that whoever captures 48 properties will win by a capture victory. That's 75% of all properties on the map. And this map also actually has a total unit count cap of 70, as opposed to the normal 50. So this also favors Hachi, because Sturm is not so likely to reach this unit cap, but Hachi might. Because look at all the cities here. If Mechstorm gets a superpower and he has, let's say, 25 cities, he can easily deploy 25 units plus the one he gets from his bases. If he calculates the superpower well. And it is Operation Mechstorm. I think we can conclude that he absolutely will do that. So, yeah, both players, early on, they're just going to go capture neutral properties. But aggression starts pretty early on this map. Now, you may notice that Sturm has one property over here that Hachi needs to capture. This is what's considered a first turn advantage because basically Hachi goes first, so Sturm starts with an extra property that Hachi has to capture. This kind of equalizes the playing field. People have done a lot of testing on this, and just look at this. Look at this. I mean, this is one of the reasons why Sturm movement is so good. It allows him to reach properties that other CEOs just can't, because it's infantry. Look at that, another property that he can get. So due to this, Sturm will get an income advantage early on due to just having more properties than his opposition. And then what Sturm needs to do is he needs to press his advantage early, because again, Sturm is a hyper-aggressive CEO, Hachi is a snowball CEO. This means that Sturm has to rush Hachi. If this game drags out in any way, Hachi will just continue to get stronger and stronger and stronger with each merchant union. And one of the reasons why he's such a snowball CO is because he generates more units with the CO power. And then those units will generate more CO powers, which will generate more CO units, which will generate more CO powers, which will generate more CO units, and on and on and on it goes. Hachi also has a hidden component to him that a lot of people are not aware of, and that's the fact that whenever he pumps his powers, all of his units globally on the map are treated as being worth half as much, even the ones he did not deploy with Partner or Merchant Union. So this means, for example, let's say he pops his Merchant Union, and you kill his tank. Normally, you get 3,500 power charge out of that, but that tank is actually worth half as much, so you only get half that. So not only does Hachi get cheap units, but whenever he pops his powers, he's actually limiting the power generations of his opponents, which really adds up against, especially when you're up against a CO with a huge power bar as Sturm has. So this is something that a lot of people are not aware of, and it's a reason why Hachi is even stronger than you may think. I wouldn't say it's like the strongest part about it, but it's a nice little bonus that most people are not aware of. It's just due to the way the game is coded, it's just how it is. It doesn't really differentiate between the units deployed during Merchant Unit and the units deployed not during Merchant Unit, if that makes sense. As we can see, Deegis has already built a recon here. This is definitely the right choice. Sturm recons are ridiculously strong, especially when they have 20% extra firepower. Those can be used to interrupt captures. They can be used to harass infantry. They force the Hachi player to build a tank early on to counter them. But here's the thing: Maxstorm builds a tank to ward off this recon. Now this recon can just go this way instead. And look at the mobility of this thing. Look at the amount of squares that it threatens. Forests, plains, it doesn't matter. This recon will go wherever it wants, and this will be very, very hard for Maxstorm to deal with early on. And just the fact that look at how he just darts over those mountains. I mean, it is absolutely disgusting. Look at that recon! What are you going to do against that? It's a scary recon as well. Another recon from Deegis. Yeah, Deegis knows exactly how to play Sturm. Just recon spam out the bazoo. It's going to be very, very hard for Maxstorm to drive that away. I mean, recons are so cheap too. 4k to the tank 7k. You know, it's extremely hard for him. So let's see what happens here. Maxstorm, you know, just chilling for the time being, building some more tanks, building artillery, very important to have artillery against Sturm. Maxstorm needs walls, and he needs indirect units to deal with Sturm, because he cannot go head-to-head against 2020 units. He needs to weaken them a little bit with artillery, otherwise it's going to be very tough for him to actually deal any kind of damage. Remember, defense in Advanced Wars is very broken. The way it stacks with defense, you put a tank on a city, that tank now has 50% extra defense. It's almost impossible to kill cost-effectively. And keep in mind, there are comp towers on this map, 2 per player, so Sturm can potentially get up to 60% firepower on a day-to-day basis if he captures both of his comp towers, which is going to be very hard for Hachi to deal with. So let's see if Deegis decides to use these recons in any way. Again, moving them out, walking the cities with them, continuing to move his infantry through forests, puts the recon on top of the comp tower so that Maxstorm cannot get it, and now he's also building some tanks as well. But, you know, Maxstorm, he's still chilling, he doesn't feel the pressure quite yet. He's just going to capture whatever properties he can, trying to get as much economy as possible. Moves his artillery out as well, trying to ward away that little recon, but it's so tough to do that. I mean, just look at this. I mean, this is absolutely disgusting. What is he going to do? Though that artillery is going to be very hard to keep alive, especially with those recons speaking about. But it's building some battlecopters, and that is good. Look at this. Look at this. Tank versus infantry on city. 3 HP of damage. I mean, how disgusting is that? Can hardly interrupt captures. So already we can see Deegis is about to capture some properties now. I wouldn't be surprised to see him take the income lead very early on. And he can do this, like ballsy as this move may seem. There's a tank in the vicinity. That infantry has so much defense. Deegis definitely feels confident in doing that right now. So in comes the tank. He can even place the tank on the plains there. It's guarded by another tank, obviously. This would not be possible with any other CO, because look at the movement cost. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Normally this tank doesn't cover this tank, but since he's Sturm, he does. So he can just get away with taking plays that no other COs will be able to get away with. And here we go. Even attacks with the recon. He doesn't care that the recon can be hit by the tank. He knows that he has to limit Hachi's income advantage early on, because the more money Hachi has to work with, the more he's going to snowball. So Deegis is doing a very good job here. just trying to limit Mexstorm's economy as much as humanly possible. On Mexstorm's turn, he continues capping properties and he creates a little bit of a wall here. Again, Mexstorm's walls are very solid. Like that. Perfect. The artillery is now covering most of these units. Of course, this recon can still strike this infantry, but he only has one artillery to work with, but that's still a pretty good wall. And he just has to wall like crazy here, because these recons will be able to pierce through anywhere. Brings his battlecopter into the action to ward away that recon sitting on top of the property. That's definitely a property that Mexstorm wants to get his hands on. And look at this. He even takes damage from... he takes damage from the recon. I mean, how disgusting is that? Of course, I mean, this is luck damage. Still, Sturm does get a little bit of a bonus to his firepower. It does add on engagements. So Deegis' turn rolls in. We're currently on day 7. And you can see here, it's already starting to secure a income advantage, 28,000 to 25,000. And it's just going to increase. Now he even goes and captures this property. Mexstorm only has a single infantry. A single infantry from Hachi will not be able to take on an Allsforce 2 Sturm in a fair one-on-one battle. Even if he gets the first strike here, Sturm will just get fire back and kill the unit on the retaliation strike. So already, and he can reinforce so much quicker too, just due to being able to move over the mountains. I mean, this is just disgusting. Brings in artillery of his own. Why not? I mean, it's going to be very hard for Mexstorm to break through any walls here. And then, again, it's just more stuff that Sturm can do thanks to his increased defense. 50% extra defense on these tanks. What is Mexstorm going to do against that? Unless he positions his artillery more. He's not going to be able to do that at all. Now, Deegis is sending this recon back to be prepared. Come back and fight another day. So now, we are really seeing the pressure starting to mount here. Deegis is playing this beautifully. He's even capturing this lab. I forgot to say this at the start of the map, but how labs work on a Allsforce by Web is that when there are no HQs on the map, labs will work as HQs instead. So how you win via HQ cap is you can capture all the labs. So there are, I believe both players have 2 labs. Mexstorm has these 2 labs, and Deegis has these 2 labs. So in order to win the game, you have to take both. This one is pretty easy for Deegis to take. This one's a little harder because it's in reach of 2 bases, but it's still not entirely impossible, especially considering his defense. So do keep an eye out on this. Day 8 rolls in. Look at this disgusting trade right here. I mean, what is he going to do? Even takes some HP back on the battlecopter. I mean, look at this. Battlecopter versus recon on the city. It's disgusting. You hate to see it. And he has to actually spend movement cost moving over these mountains as well. Unlike Deegis, who can just cruise ahead. But of course, sacrifices one of his infantry to interrupt that cap as well. Trying his best to try and limit Sturm's momentum early on. But I can absolutely tell you, ladies and gentlemen, this is about to get very nasty for the Hachi player. You see, he has to box up his units perfectly in order to ward off this tank aggression. And Mexstorm, he creates walls pretty much perfectly. He also gets a Neo-Tank out. He pretty much has no choice in this regard. I mean, he needs some kind of high-tech units to ward away Sturm. But it's not easy. It's not easy at all. And now, we will really see Sturm mount up his aggression and really try to pressure Hachi. Look at the income disparity already. And here Deegis comes in. 31,000 to 26,000. Tanks and recons. Just look at the speed at which Sturm can front switch his entire army over. I mean, this is disgusting to look at.
Yes.
In a moment's notice, he'll just have his entire army be in a different place. Build some medium tank. Sturm's medium tank can definitely challenge Hachi's Neo Tank. No problem at all. Even if Hachi's Neo Tank gets the first strike, it's going to be tough for him to deal with. Pulls back his recon to get healed. Even shoots with another recon on the battlecopter. The disrespect, ladies and gentlemen. The absolute disrespect from Sturm right here. I mean, this is absolutely disgusting. Look at that. How do you see a recon going toe-to-toe against the battlecopter? This reminds me of the Combine vs. Colin battle. Deegis now caps another city. And here, he also starts to take the com tower. This is really bad news for Mexstorm. He really wants this com tower. He doesn't want to let Deegis capture it. More firepower Deegis gets, the more difficult it's going to be for Mexstorm to wall anything. Takes a shot at the recon. I think he'll be able to kill it. And indeed, he does. This allows him to take this city, and he can also wall it off with his infantry. Although, will he actually do that? Let's find out. He has to prevent this infantry from taking this property. He needs, like, it's so important for Hachi to accumulate income early on. If he doesn't get enough income, then his powers just won't snowball him as hard as he would want to against an opponent like this. You can see how careful Maxstorm is with swallowing right here. He has to build a medium tank and another artillery. Deegis is really letting on the pressure right here. He's coming in very hard and very fast. But of course, Deegis is also under pressure here because he knows that if he doesn't apply enough pressure early on, he's toast when the merchant comes in. But Deegis continues to cap several properties on his turn. 35,000 to 26,000. I mean, this is starting to get very nasty. 36,000, and he's working on this comm tower as well. Doesn't look like Maxstorm will be able to take it away from him. And now he just goes in. Look at this with this comp. God, look at the firepower of this tank. One shots the infantry on road. One shots the other infantry on the road. And just continues to move in. He doesn't care that there's a medium tank and a neo tank in the vicinity. He just goes for it. My goodness, look at that wall breaking! He gets the artillery! The things you can do with perfect movement and 20% extra firepower, and he brings in the artillery to guard his units! What is Maxstorm going to do against this kind of aggression? He doesn't have his merchant union ready. There's still 3 stars away until he gets it. So already you can see Deegis just piling on the pressure, pushing Maxstorm back on every single front. Will it be enough, though? He retreats his infantry here, realizes he can't capture his property, but that's fine. He's forced Maxstorm to divert some units away, which allows him to advance in this area. Now Deegis bringing out the Neo-Tank here as well. The Sturm Neo-Tank, man, there's really nothing Maxstorm can do about it unless he builds a Mega. Sturm Neo-Tank, he's not going to be able to face it. Even if he strikes this with a Neo-Tank of his own, he's still going to come out losing that exchange. So day 10 rolls in. Maxstorm now, he's behind 10,000 value, or sorry, income. In terms of unit value, he's behind almost 40,000. Unit count, Deegis is leading as well, 40 to 31. This is looking really bad. This is where the Hachi player will struggle the most. Around day 9-10, before the merchant unit comes in, this is not looking good for him. But he just has to hold out a little bit. So in he comes, takes a shot where he can get it, even places his Neo-Tank in range of the artillery. Now this may look like madness, but keep in mind, he wants to generate that value. He wants to generate that value as much as possible. Even brings in the medium tank. He has to do damage here. Gets a little bit of a cute shot on the infantry. Continues to take shots at his infantry. Even able to kill some of them. That's very good. Doesn't attack here though for some reason. I guess he doesn't want to weaken his battlecopter even further. And just continues to wall, continues to hold out until the merchant unit is ready. And look at what Maxstorm is going to do right now, ladies and gentlemen. This is really well played. When I saw him do this, I was like, oh my god. Look at this. So, you really expect most players to panic, right? And build a ton of units. But Maxstorm doesn't want to do that. He builds only infantry. He's behind. Yet he only builds infantry. Now, why does he do this? It's because his merchant union is right around the corner. He knows he's going to get it next turn. So the more money that he can save up, similar to how Colin works with his gold rush, the more money he can save up in the bank, the more that money will pay off when his merchant unit comes in. So he will get around 40k income next turn. Around 45 to 50k funds to spend on units. Those funds will effectively be doubled because he gets a 50% discount. So the fact that he took a turn to save up his money now, that means he's going to get a lot of value out of his merchant union next turn. But it does mean that he also gives up some map presence because these units will come out later, and Deegis might be able to capitalize on that. Deegis' turn rolls in, finishes capping the home tower, 37,000 income right now. He is piling on the aggression. Now he's even threatening to end the game instantly because this is Maxstorm's final lap. So if Maxstorm doesn't stop this capture, he will actually just straight up lose the game. And look at Deegis positioning his units in such a way that it's going to be very hard for him to reach that lab. And this is really, now Deegis is capping even more cities. He's threatening to get up to 38k. If he gets up to 48s, then he will just win the match instantly via capture. So the pressure is really on there. Now Deegis does take the shot on the Neo-Tank, almost filling up Maxstorm's power bar. One of the most disgusting things about Merchant Unit is just how easy it is to charge up 5 stars, one of the cheapest powers in the game. But Deegis is not faced by that. He realizes that he has to do everything he can to try and punish Hachi as much as possible because he knows the merchant unit is coming in. He even takes a shot at the Battlecopter. This is hilarious. So, builds a bomber, builds an artillery, needs some high-tech units, even puts the recon out of sight to ward it away from the enemy Battlecopters. And day 11 rolls in, ladies and gentlemen, and this is where things are going to get really wild. Now, Maxstorm, he does take a couple of shots here, which is a little weird. I'm not entirely sure why he does this, but then he pops Merchant Union, and oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. 53,000 in the bank. 53,000 in the bank. He has 25 properties in total. That's minus bases, and he has 4 bases. So that's 21 cities that are now effectively bases. Let me tell you, the amount of time Maxstorm took thinking out this particular move, I think 3 to 4 days of real time. We were all sitting around waiting for this. We were like, when are you going to finish your turn? He's like, no, I'm not done yet. I need to calculate this turn properly. So he spent 4 days thinking out this merchant unit right here. Let's see what he decides to do. Obviously, he wants to fight first to free up the cities. This city needs to be cleared. See, Dietrich is smart. He's sitting on his cities because every city that he blocks is 1 less base that Hachi gets on his turn. Let's see how many bases he'll be able to dislodge here. Keep in mind, he also has to spend time interrupting this capture, unless he wants Dietrich to straight out win. And he needs to be careful because Dietrich can also joint cap here. So here comes the first Mega Tank. This is a good move. He can still ward away the Neo Tank. He also builds an anti-air in preparation for the bomber. An artillery, infantry on the city. Oh my god, look at this. Another Mega Tank. Now, I don't know why it says he has minus 19,000 value here. I think the replay viewer is a little confused because it doesn't have the Hachi discount programmed in, so it's showing Maxstorm as having less money than he actually does. This will probably be corrected next turn, though. But Maxstorm comes in, deals some damage to the infantry. He gets a 10% boost as well. Keep this in mind. Advanced Force 2 Hachi does not get this. Advanced Force 2 Hachi only gets 10% extra defense, but on Advanced Force by Web, he gets 10% firepower as well because everyone gets the dual strike boost. He builds an artillery on the city. Then is able to apply a little bit of pressure down here. There we go. Builds more infantry. Even more infantry. A transport copter for 2,500 and another artillery. And I think that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Even more infantry on the side. I mean, just look at this. Look at this. Just went up to 50 units. I mean, this is really, just, you don't see any other CEOs capable of doing this. I mean, look at his value. 100